Thank you for joining us for another episode of Between My Therapist and I. My name is Lily Smith, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And today I'm joined by Ben, a master's level student who is doing his internship with us here at the Traveling Therapist. Hi, Ben.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Today we're actually going to be talking about preparing for parenthood, and the way that we're going to be setting up this video and the way that we'll be setting all future videos up is we're going to break it down into separate sections, which you will be able to find in the description under timestamps that you will be able to click on and go directly to the section that you prefer if you would like to jump to different sections, or you're always welcome to watch the whole thing. Now, we also invite you to click and subscribe and also click on the little bell for reminders of when we have a new video coming up.
Yeah, we're always making new content, which is exciting. So the channel is dynamically changing. So make sure to check it out.
We're also going to be allowing this to be in closed captioning, both in English and in Spanish. Thank you, Ben.
Yes, of course, no problem.
So feel free to use your closed caption, and also check out our future videos as well, and our past videos, because we talk about parenting. The last two podcasts we've been talking about parenting. So let's jump right in. The video is going to be divided into three sections. The first one is what makes a healthy parent-child relationship. And in that section, we're going to be talking about first, what does the child need to feel like they can develop a bond with you as a parent? Then, and that's going to be trustworthiness. It's going to be respect and the feeling of being safe. It's going to be the feeling of knowing that they are important and that they matter. Structure and predictability, and autonomy. Then we'll be moving on to the next section, which is going to be barriers to accomplishing that kind of bond. And in that, we're going to be talking about unresolved trauma, socioeconomic status, poor time management, inability to self-regulate, and codependent relationships. Finally, we're going to discuss how you can overcome those barriers. And there's going to be 5 tools that are going to address the original barriers, and out of those 5 tools, you'll get to see how individually using them either all together or each specific to your needs can make a difference to getting you closer to being the excellent father or mother that I'm sure you're going to be.
And the purpose of this content is to really kickstart that self-help process. So even finding this video and taking the necessary actions to see if, will I be a good parent or not, and seeking those resources already shows that momentum. So we want to keep that momentum going, which is fantastic.
Now, all of this is primarily derived from therapeutic background, working with children, working with families and couples. This topic is actually a really large and intensive topic. Oh, yeah. So we're trying to break it down into small chunks, but you can definitely go a lot further than just like 5 of each one. But for the purposes of time management, we'll do it like this, and we just kind of took out what I felt was the most important things for a person to know, especially someone who's just starting to consider the possibility of having a child, or just got pregnant and doesn't know anything about how to be a parent, and is looking for help. So first we're going to go into what makes the healthy parent-child relationship. So the child ideally, so we're talking about we're talking about newborn child, very, very early stages. And this, you want to create the bond as early as humanly possible. So they, you know, learning to respect and help the child feel safe, that's a key component of developing a healthy bond. That you can do by responding to their needs whenever they call out, responding to emotional requests from them. So if the child is crying, if the child is trying to get your attention and they're like babbling and they're in your face trying to like get you to like look at me, look at me.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually an excellent time for you to have that interaction with the baby. So right now we're talking like very early stages.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to have that interaction with the baby and um, help them to know like, hey, you're being seen, you're being acknowledged. And then the safety factor.
Yes.
That's more of, okay, are you responding when the child calls? Or are you letting them cry themselves out? There's a huge question of whether it's a good idea for a child to be left alone to cry themselves to the point of soothing,
Mm-hmm.
or if you should respond right away. I think that if you're going to let the child feel safe from an early age, like literally from when they're first born, I don't believe that they are going to be able to fully comprehend why it is that the primary caregiver is not present
Mm-hmm.
when they're asking for help.
Or even
So,
acknowledgement, just
or
having
some
that
sort of,
response.
yes,
Yeah.
so at least an acknowledgement. You don't have to directly go and pick the baby up, but exactly, just an acknowledgement of like you're okay and like just a soothing touch.
Mm-hmm.
So that they feel safe. Remember that they've been in the womb for 9 months and technically you've been accessible to them.
Yeah.
Constantly.
And you mentioned this early on when we were talking about it with just the heartbeat, the rhythm of a mother.
So they've heard that soothing sound.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they are having a really hard time calming down, then actually doing skin to skin touch or holding them so that they can hear your heartbeat or they can feel your heartbeat. Those things are they give that sense of safety. So that's a really good way to start the bond with the child.
Of course.
Trustworthiness. Trustworthiness, we're actually talking about, are you somebody who the child knows that you have the ability to follow through with what you do and what you say? So can the child safely be themselves around you? And
Mm-hmm.
an example of a situation where the child may not feel like they can trust you is if you're the type of parent, and this goes right back to the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes back to the trauma. If you cannot provide this, you need to check your trauma here. If you're the type of parent that whenever the child cries and you get frustrated or you've had a long night or you're tired or something like that, instead of the child receiving safety and comfort, they get yelled at or they get abusive words or they get shaken or they get ignored.
Dismissive. That's a huge one too.
So if that happens, that child will learn not to trust you as a parent at a very early age. So from a very, very early start, your child will be looking to trust you and they will initiate trust first. But if you are not able to nurture that trust by making them feel safe, by making them see that you are someone who follows through when they need you to be there, then they'll dismiss you very quickly.
And a lot of the times, these instances of them vocalizing that they want to build that relationship aren't going to be artificial. You just
Right.
got to look for those signs, and they may not be right in your face right away, but it could be something as simple as let's go for a walk around the park.
Mm-hmm.
Or even once they get older and later in life, that's how that loyalty and that trust starts to get built over time,
Mm-hmm.
is through those non-artificial scenarios, quite literally.
Right. So then we move on to the child should feel important.
Mm-hmm.
And ways that you can make your baby feel important is by giving them time, by giving them attention, by letting them see that you are present and that they matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether it's by taking them to the park, whether it's by responding when they call, whether it's by making eye contact when they're trying to get your attention. Um, One example of not making them feel important would be uh, you see on like YouTube and on TikTok and all these different places, you see how the parent will like be playing video games or be watching TV, and then they just have the baby like just on them. The baby's awake and looking around, and but the person's not really engaging with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing their own thing, and they're completely separate. Or dismissing the baby, like like putting them aside every time that baby tries to come and like take your attention.
And you got to think about the critical stages of where kids are learning. So, like, even when they're crawling, how a parent would go about that. And just looking at the child, you don't want to be dismissive. And if the baby's trying to crawl, you're looking away, you're scrolling on your phone. You gotta encourage them.
So, you get the baby like crawling towards you, and then you walk away. Like that's a clear sign of dismissal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a way that you can make your child feel important, is by being present, emotionally and physically present. Another one is structure and predictability. So a lot of people may think, oh yes, I'm going to be a really tough parent, and so I will definitely not fail in having a structured relationship with my child. Well, as we were talking in the podcast before, there's a very fine line between structure, predictability, and overbearingness, and making the child feel like they're powerless. When we talk about structure and we talk about predictability, we're talking about creating an environment where the child knows that they're going to be able to eat every day, and that they're going to be able to get sustenance and care at a reasonable time every day. They know where they're going to sleep every night.
Mm-hmm.
They know to identify the people in their life. So they know who grandma is, they know who grandpa is, they know who mom and dad are, auntie and uncle, brothers and sister, etc., etc. That's what I'm talking about when I say you're starting to create predictability and structure. The baby knows where the toys are, and so at the early on you start to teach him like, this is where your toys are and this is where they go when we're done.
Mm-hmm.
And you show them and you do it with them at first a few times, and then you say, okay, now it's your turn, and then etc., etc. The baby creating a structure means a structured bedtime, structured wake up time, structured feeding time, diaper time, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm talking about when I say structure and predictability, is providing for that child a way where they can know that this is my space and this is my people and this is my environment, and I know that when I wake up in the morning, it's going to be the same.
And it places them on a map of the timeline. So in their system, in their family, they kind of get a general understanding of where their independence can start to grow and thrive, and when that structure will bring them back into their family system.
So when we were talking about neglectful parents before, so when we're talking about neglectful parenting, that's one of those things where you see a very little structure. So yes, that's where the kids are having to fend for themselves. They don't know if they've had to move to multiple places because of different reasons. So like those are the kinds of things where you would see in a household where the parent the parent may be using substances, the parent may be homeless, they may not have the right socioeconomic status to take care of the child, and so the child doesn't know where they're going to eat next or who's going to be take their babysitter, who's going to take care of them.
Hmm.
And that actually creates in the long run, now we're looking at 10 years in the future, now you're going to be seeing behaviors that are very um, very unpredictable,
Hmm.
um, where identity crises come in, where a lot of children who have been diagnosed as adults with bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder come from backgrounds like that.
Even maladaptive behaviors, they can start to surface early or later on in life.
Yes, negative attachment styles, things like that. So very important to maintain that structure and that predictability. And then the fifth one in this section is autonomy. And you might say, well, it's kind of contradictory to number 4. That doesn't make any sense. But when we talk about autonomy, is we're talking about you want the child as early as possible. So we're saying like months old.
Hmm.
Present that child within a safe environment. Present that child with possibilities to explore their environment, to play scientist.
Hmm.
So let them play with, like something fell on the floor, like let's say like water fell on the floor or something spilled or cotton from a stuffed animal or whatever. Let them touch it. Let them feel it. Let them kind of figure out what's in it, what it is, and yes, of course, then they try to put it in their mouth. You wouldn't know, then you stop them there. But if it's water or juice or something like that, let them feel what is this liquid.
And even set up those instances. I know when I was younger, a simple thing of shaving cream and a table. You put shaving cream down and let them explore it. And I know in previous videos, once a child gets older, we mentioned that child exploring on the monkey bars.
Yep, the monkey
Hmm.
bars. You can have a small pool, like a one of those little baby pools,
Yeah.
and you can fill it with all kinds of sensory objects, balloons and balls that have different structure on it and feels differently. So you can do that. And then additionally for autonomy, you can show like, do you like this onesie? Like this onesie? Like, what does the baby like? Which one do you like? And then let them start picking from a
Hmm.
very, very young age. They don't even have to start talking. They don't even have to talk yet.
Hmm.
For them to start picking, give them options as often as you can. 2 different types of vegetables. Yes, they're still going to eat vegetables, but you give them 2 different types that they can pick from. You have 2 different types of healthy snacks. You have 2 different types of toys to play with or games to play with, etc., etc., so that the child can start kind of developing their autonomy and their personality.
And one thing that this kind of is interesting about is this gives you the answer key for that emotional relationship because you learn about what your child's interested in, and then you see, okay, well, this stimulates them when they go after these colors, or this is their favorite foods.
Mm-hmm.
And in the future, when you pack their lunches or just try to build that relationship, you can already have a good idea, a general idea of what your child likes before they're independent.
That's right. Another, it's just a side note, is pay attention to your child's love language.
Mm-hmm.
So they might really like whenever you do things with them. So that's quality time. Or they might really like whenever you say nice words or words of affirmation, or like, you're such a good baby, you're doing such a great job, I love you, that they light up. When you do something for them, like you take them out to the park or you give them a gift, or you give them a hug. See which ones they're really attracted to, and you can also give them choices around that, around the things that they're interested in. Um, and then it's also a really good way to develop these different bonds by using the different love languages. So at first they might gravitate towards all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they get older, one will come out more and will mean more. But that's also a great way to develop a bond. Now, moving on, the next thing is barriers. And these are the barriers that you might find to being able to develop those different bonds that we just mentioned. The first one is unresolved trauma. And what I'm talking about here, like when we were talking about parenting before and parenting styles, you're going to find if you stop and reflect, and especially if you're considering having a child, you should really, really, really stop and reflect in your own childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And consider, okay, what are some things in my childhood that I feel were not resolved that may affect my own relationship with my child in the future? Whether it's, well, I never really knew how to properly bond with another person.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know how to tell someone that I love them. I don't know how to set structure and boundaries. Shoot, I can barely figure out my own self.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm always late. I have a really hard time keeping myself in check. So I have very little boundaries. I never know how to say no to people. So, you know, stop and figure out what it is that you might still be holding on, because unresolved trauma from childhood especially makes a huge impact on how successful you'll be in creating the healthy bond that you need to with your child.
Of course.
So that's the first barrier, is unresolved trauma. The next one is socioeconomic status. So now we're talking about, you might end up confronting situations where you are a student or you have a job that may not be paying enough.
Mm-hmm.
That if, let's say that you and your partner are both working, but if you have to leave because you have to take FMLA or you have to take time off to be with the baby, you would not be able to afford the bills. So that can be a huge barrier. Another one, poor time management.
Mm-hmm.
So we were just talking about time management. And that's all around, Ben, you were mentioning for yourself, like when you think about potentially having a baby.
Yes.
You were saying, well, I'd like to be able to spend good amount of quality time, especially the first year
Mm-hmm.
of the child. But what if I don't know how to manage my time in a way that allows me to both have a job and spend time with my child
Mm-hmm.
at the same time?
And it's a towering task. If anyone looks at it, you look at, you know, the responsibilities as an adult and then as a parent. And there is overlap between the two of them
Mm-hmm.
to a certain extent. But being able to open up that schedule so later down the road you can catch a child's soccer game or be able to go to their dance recital or anything that they end up having their involvement in later in life is just as important as early on in life. So that FMLA, making sure you can take the time off work to be able to, if you're co-parenting or in a relationship or married with that individual, that you can kind of enjoy some of that emotional bonding and be able to share the stress and responsibility of raising that child.
Right. Then we have um, inability to self-regulate. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's probably second biggest. I would say trauma is definitely a big one, but they both kind of go hand in hand. So
Yes.
the inability to self-regulate is going to be a tremendous barrier to creating a safe bond. Children are literally designed to test your every trigger, your every patience.
Push the buttons.
Push every button, find every button, push it, and then go back and keep pushing it again. So if you're the type of person that you already know Now we're talking about someone who does not have children. So you've had children and you're thinking about trying the second time and maybe the third time, maybe the fourth time, and you're like, this time I really want to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, take this knowledge and keep it close to your heart. Your child is going to depend wholeheartedly on the example that you present. If you cannot self-regulate, if you cannot stop yourself from screaming and yelling, if you cannot stop yourself from throwing a tantrum,
Mm-hmm.
if you cannot calm yourself after you've been crying, if you cannot calm yourself in public or manage whenever somebody crosses in front of you in a highway or tries to take your parking space, at the store, if you cannot do that, do not ever expect that your child will be able to do it, because they're looking at you to be the example.
Mm-hmm.
You are their person. And so you're the one that they're going to follow. So if you throw the tantrum, they're going to feel like, well, it's okay to throw a tantrum because tantrums are normal and people throw tantrums. Look at my mom. Look at my dad. Look at whoever my parent figure is. So be very mindful of that. That's a huge barrier. And then the fifth one is codependency.
Mm-hmm.
So codependency meaning, are you struggling with substance use? Are you struggling with a partner in your relationship that unfortunately is not a secure partner, is not a safe partner, is not a trustworthy partner? That can be a very like a big barrier to having a healthy relationship with your child. You might really, really want to have the child. You see the clock is ticking.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting into your 30s, and now you're thinking, man, I got into this relationship thinking that this was going to be it, thinking that this was going to be my person. And now I'm in my late 30s and I'm getting close to not being able to have children, and I don't want to leave this person, but at the same time I can't see myself having a child with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big barrier, and something that it's important to keep in mind.
And being honest in that factor too. Anything that could jeopardize a child's well-being or your own well-being is going to make it difficult and challenging to be the parent that you hold to a high standard. So that's a huge boundary or barrier, excuse me, that has to be addressed.
Yeah. So then here are some suggestions on final solutions. The first for overcoming these barriers, so the first one that we talked about was unresolved trauma. And so we're talking about taking time for yourself to self-reflect and really ask yourself, what are the things in my past and in my childhood that I feel may have been unresolved that affect or may affect the type of relationship I'm going to have with my child. A great way, if you don't know how, if you don't have the answer, if you don't know how to get the answer, a great way to do that is offer to babysit. So offer to babysit someone's kid, and they are going to show you your trauma. They are going to show you where you're going wrong or where you're going to be going wrong. Because they're going to show you, maybe you were not able to set boundaries with that child. Maybe you were not able to self-regulate with that child. Maybe you were not able to show them that you could follow through, put your money where your mouth is.
Mm-hmm.
But you definitely are going to recognize, oh, wow, yes, this really set me off.
And it also calls upon patience. So being in that environment, you're babysitting, and it may be someone else's kids, but you're going to use the skills that you need, that patience aspect,
Yep.
and having those boundaries set up. So highly critical.
Use other kids.
Yes. With the safe test subject though.
As your test subjects with love.
Of course.
Another thing is managing the finances, right? So that is a lot about planning ahead. Like you, at that point, you really want to sit with your significant other. You want to break down what are your finances, what do you have right now that you're bringing to the table. So whether it's how much does this person make, how much do you make,
Mm-hmm.
how much do you guys have in savings, or if you have a 401k or IRA, anything like that. And then try to get as much of your debt out of the way first as possible. Find out from both jobs, do they offer paid time off or any sort of paid leave?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you able to use your PTO time to kind of help out a little bit, even though it's not usually very long, but it's something? Um, Reach out to families and friends to get their help and support for free babysitting, for, hey, I know that you have two kids of your own. Do you have a stroller? Do you have changing table? Do you have, there's so many different people in our lives that will have like all kinds of things in their garage or in their storage
Mm-hmm.
that can turn around and be like, oh my gosh, yes, take it off my hands. So, as far as managing finances, like use your resources.
Yes.
There's going to be stores that you can get quite a few of your items from that
Mm-hmm.
are practically for nothing. And as long as they're still good for use and then start there. Um, the next one is, and if you can talk to like your banker or a financial advisor, that also helps. If you're not able to, that's fine too. Work with people. Okay, so the next one is your time management skills. Um, Books, there's a ton of books um, that help with that. You can also reach out if you have a therapist, if you have a life coach,
Mm-hmm.
if if you have a parent yourself who you say, my mom is really good with her time management, or my dad, or my aunt, or my uncle. There's a family member, there's someone in my community that I know that's really good with time management. Don't be afraid to pick their brain
Mm-hmm.
and structure, and kind of find out, okay, how do you structure your day?
And even with I know we talked about this, mom groups or
That's right.
parenting groups.
Ask their help,
Yeah,
ask them questions. They'll know.
of course, because they've been through it, they're about to go through it, and it provides that network. You can also get the inside scoop on those financial decisions and incorporating that future child into that plan. Um, so yeah.
Okay. The next one is of course, the self-regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget that your trauma does have some bearing into your ability to self-regulate. So as you're doing your deep reflection, and hopefully after you reflect and you realize what are some of the things that you need to work on, then now comes the time to go find the help. So, obviously here at the Traveling Therapist, we provide quite a bit of help with trauma and things like that. But you can start with reading books, self-help books. You can ask a therapist. You can talk to someone in your religious community that you might trust. Um, until you feel comfortable to really like sit down with a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't feel like you're 100% ready, then you can at least start by like talking to your best friend about it, talking to your family about it, whoever you feel you really have some sort of a trusting bond with,
Mm-hmm.
that can help you at least get started with the process. And then work on developing a plan for yourself on how you're going to address that trauma and how you're going to start working on progressing towards being healthier and being emotionally ready to have that baby.
Of course. And there's individuals who, seeing a therapist right away, they find comfort in that because it's outside of the circle
That's
of
true.
their family members. So in that case, set up that assessment or the evaluation to come in. And then start unpacking that luggage and make the life load a little bit lighter
Mm-hmm.
before you embark on this journey of raising a child.
Yeah, because it's a long journey.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
lifelong journey. And then the last one is just off. Last but definitely not least is the codependence, and both potentially with some sort of a substance or with a partner who's not a fit partner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is probably the hardest pill to swallow. I think like if you have a codependence to a substance, then the difficulty of it is to recognize that you have a problem.
Yes.
And then seeking help, reaching out, AA, calling United Way 211, talking to a therapist, things like that. Starting the process of like, what are my local resources that I can use? What are people that I can talk to? How can I start the journey of healing from my substance abuse? And then when it comes to your partner, sitting down and having a really honest conversation with your partner and saying, listen, this is where I see my life going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this stage of my life. I'm ready to have a child, and I see myself having a family, and I see myself being in a healthy and loving partnership. And I want to know if you're ready to be in that partnership with me.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then, what are the options? Does the relationship have to end? Or do they need couples counseling? Or is it a matter of a conversation? Like, what is the holdup for that partner?
Yes.
What is their unresolved trauma? Because a lot of times people choose not to become parents because of their own unresolved trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So in that parent-child bond and relationship is going to be you and whoever you're with. So, we have a lot of people who might say, "I'm never going to have children because I don't think I'm going to be a good parent because my parents really messed me up, or because I've made so many mistakes in my life, or however many reasons." They just say, I don't think I'm going to be a good parent. And then they just kind of put aside the option altogether. And then over the years, it just becomes like, well, that's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the person that's not going to have parents and have children. But in reality, like, you might sit with them and you might talk about it, and they might figure, you know, I didn't want to be a parent, but if you're in my life and you're the person that I'm having a child with, I think we could make it work.
And oftentimes, I would make the assumption that those individuals could have a great idea already of what a good parent is because they lived through a situation or circumstances that maybe weren't ideal for an individual. And it's kind of that, well, what would you do better?
Mm-hmm.
There is no perfect parent, but there are things that you can do to ensure the benefit of your relationship with your child. So I feel like those individuals might have a better understanding before they even know that they could be a parent.
Yeah. So in this last one, my recommendation is, if it's a matter of partnership, unless there is abuse happening, if there's abuse, I am begging you, we are begging you, all the therapists in the world are begging you, do not bring a child into that home. Do not do it. Find yourself a situation away from that and then think about having a child, but do not bring a child into an abusive home. But if the case is that there is no abuse and it's just a matter of you do not see that your partner seems open to the possibility, and that's really discouraging you, then my thought is, talk to them. Express to them your desire to start the process of becoming a parent. Talk to them about where they are in that process and present them with the information that we've shared today and see if maybe they have one of these barriers, and maybe some of these answers might be exactly what they need to hear. And that's it for us. for today. And thank you so much for joining us for Between My Therapist and I. And if you guys are interested in finding out more about our practice, you can find us at thetravelingtherapist.net and our social media, which it's all going to be in the description. And like we said before, check the description for the different timestamps, and that way you can jump between sections. If you want to listen to one more than once or something like that, you can do it that way.
And if you have any recommendations on future videos, please
Yes.
leave a comment below and just like, subscribe, and we look forward to seeing from you.
Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.